Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Hello to all of my listeners, to those who are following. I welcome you all. For those if this is your first time listening, continue tuning in. There's more in store. This is your boy BT, deciding to do a different spin on my podcast tonight. I've been having a conversation with one of my friends, practically like a sister, and she hit me with a plethora of topics that I actually feel are going to be good conversation pieces that I'm going to give a few pieces of my thoughts on them, and then I'm going to kind of make it an open forum or an open discussion to those who are able to listen. Now, I'm going to be as broad yet as balanced as I can in this conversation because it's something that we go into, but we don't go into very often. Let me do a little bit of adjusting because I don't want everybody to go deaf trying to listen to my situation. But you don't really understand or don't realize how massive the gaming community is because everybody has their perspective of the gamer. For instance, I work with a lot of my friends or colleagues who are more PC gamers, and I have a few of my friends who I personally know that are strongly PC gamers. However, some of them who are PC gamers are predominantly PC gamers and won't touch a console to save their soul. I have no knock against that, and I have no argument away from it whatsoever. That being said, and I'll go ahead and let you all know in advance, this topic is going to be broken down into multiple podcasts. And I'm finally starting to categorize my groups. So if you look on my page on Spreaker, you'll see that there's BT Podcast, Sports Podcast, Gaming and Music Podcast. That way it's no distinction or confusion between which is which or which one we're talking about for that particular week or day or whatever the case may be. So tonight I'll be starting the series about the video game communities and the online gaming community. So tonight, the first topic that I'll be doing is what I'll consider to be the pros and cons of online gaming for predominantly the console side of things. That I can kind of speak on from personal experience because I've seen it where there are good things and there are bad things. So I'll break down a few of the good things first and some of the bad things that I've seen since dealing with gaming on consoles. Now, we'll go ahead and let you know that I've been on the console platform with online gaming for a little over 9 or 10 years, give or take, because I got my 360 back in 2006. But before that, I did have PlayStation 2 and I did have the PlayStation, the Dreamcast. But Dreamcast I didn't really do online because dial-up wasn't the thing. But on PlayStation 2, they did have the option where you could plug an Ethernet cable and connect and play with people online. So that option was there to be used. So anyway, one of the first things, the first side of that I'm going to talk about are the pros and the things that you do kind of gain from doing online gaming in the console world. And the first thing that I'm going to get into is the networking side of it, of the way you interact with people. On console, my first experience, and this is kind of going to be just a little bit of a story, but it will kind of break it all down in the long haul. One of my first games that I got into when I first bought my Xbox 360, believe it or not, of all games, was Uno. Now, to some people, it's like, Uno, all you're doing is playing cards and putting down draw twos and skips, and that's it. Well, in reality, Uno was a game that got you to meet other people and kind of talk to them to learn, hey, what games do you have? And you kind of would be able to kind of mesh off of each other's conversation. As a matter of fact, the interesting thing is two of my friends who I personally talk to away from my Xbox we literally would just get in a room and one of us would own the table. We would lock 2 seats, make sure that the other 2 got in those seats. And the fourth person was whoever we wanted it to be, whoever felt like sitting and listening to us just ramble about random stuff. And we always had good conversations between sports, between music, between different games that were coming out, things of that sort. So the networking side of it is, you'd be surprised. Like, I know for me recently, I started playing Mortal Kombat X, and I knew a guy from offline, and I met him online, and it caused us to get online any chance he sees me on. He's like, hey, you get on to play some Mortal Kombat. So there are good things that come from doing the online side of console gaming. The next part of it is the relaxation part of the calmness of online gaming. Yeah, you're probably going to think, well, yeah, most games that you get on is kind of like you just raging and just aggressively and frustrated. No, not necessarily, because there are those moments where you may just want to get on and pop a few heads in Call of Duty or play a little bit of Destiny to get a little bit of frustration off your chest, and that's the end of it. So in that aspect, that's where I found gaming online to be very relaxing and very chill. There are different games that have like an online flow to it that aren't as over the top. Prime example, Plants vs. Zombies. Garden Warfare has that feel or that flair where you don't have to be in full combat mode while playing. And a lot of the games I am mentioning are games that either I do own or have owned. NBA 2K, no exception. Like, you can get online and get a good game in, and you can lose, but you can learn from why you lost or things of that sort. Like, the last game I would mention as being relaxing is FIFA, because anybody who knows FIFA, has heard of FIFA, knows that it's the most AIDS-based game without trying to be AIDS. And that's just not, I know that's a negative reference to the game, but that's literally how I look at FIFA. And that kind of ties into my next point, which is you learn your strengths and your weaknesses by playing games online. Because by playing other people, you realize, hey, this is something that I need to become a little better. Like, for me, the first thing I always go back to is Mortal Kombat X. When I first bought it, I didn't know what to expect. But as I've played it and as I've learned how to play it, I'm getting a better understanding for things that I'm good at with characters. Most times it's usually just blind button mashing, but it gives you that fluid flow of learning the game and learning the secrets and the finishing moves and things of that sort. Also, I know with Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, the more you play, the more you're able to learn your spawns, your best spots. And I'm going to kind of get into that with the cons. There are a lot of glitches that you have to be prepared for, because there are people who make it their goal to just learn ways to literally exploit a game for what it's worth. Knew that was coming. So there's that. And I've mentioned this earlier, but I'll kind of add it again. You meet new people. With Xbox One, I'm not sure of the amount on PlayStation 4, but I know, for instance, on 360, you could have 100 friends. 100 friends on a console isn't that bad. So on the Xbox One, it's 1,000. So you think 1,000 people that you can play games with or can play games with you are available to play whatever you have if y'all both are online and happen to get on. Matter of fact, true story. Yesterday, guy went on Facebook. I'm in a group for Gears of War, and he was looking for some new people who wanted to help him defeat one of the characters on Gears of War. Matter of fact, it was the final character. So I said, I'll get on with you, because I'm off and I'm snowed in, so why not? And we got on. Granted, I didn't interact with him, and that'll be one of the things that I need to make sure that you all do understand, and I do have that listed. It's a gift and a curse at times, because you can get online with people who may or may not have microphones, but you still, it gives you that chance to help somebody beat an achievement that they may or may not have been able to beat. Little things like that. So that helps out a lot too. So that is something that makes gaming for me online enjoyable at times, is that you really can meet people and, you know, learn from their way of playing, or figure out something different that you didn't do before. And finally, it's a new playground. And I know that's like a very broad way of saying it, but when I say a new playground, it means it as you get into a game, you feel out how the game is played, you learn the ways of how different skills are functioning. Some people play different. I go back to it because it's literally what I've seen with Black Ops 3. You have some people who buy a game just to camp, and they just gonna sit in one spot and just shoot whoever they can until they get caught in that spot, and then they go to another spot. And that's, you know, everybody plays different. I know for me, I'm a running gun. So when you get into a game, you can get into the game with the same people, and they may play a certain way, but that doesn't mean that you got to stop the way you play. So it's almost like the easiest way I can explain it is like a personality test. You take a personality test. Both of you have a similar personality. Do your personalities mesh, or do they collide? Typically, they're going to collide, but it's not intentional. It's just because in most cases, somebody wants to be the dominant one in the situation, and that's a given across the board. So you do come across that new playground environment, and with NBA 2K, there's no exception. When you do online gaming with others, you have those who you'll hear the term cheese, where they just do stuff that is just a way of just beating the system for what it's worth. And that, like I said, that's another one of my things that I will go into as one of the cons as well. So those are a few of my pros and a few things that I've seen as to what makes online gaming enjoyable. Now for the negatives, and yeah, I do have the same amount, so don't feel like I'm going to have more negatives than positives. The first thing that I'm going to get into, and this is kind of a strange thing, it's kind of weird because I just saw this like not too long ago, is the term wrong age demographic, which means anybody who knows gaming in consoles, and even with PC, when you buy a game, they have a warning label, or they have a age range of what games children are allowed to play. So that means a 10-year-old shouldn't be playing Grand Theft Auto 5 or Black Ops 3 or things of that sort, but yet they play it. Or even worse, let's say they play a game of legal age, such as NBA 2K. You might play a game with them online and might chat with them, which is kind of an odd situation, but it happens. And they may get on the microphone and curse like they are, you know, like they're a grown adult. I know for me, and it just happens to be the way it is, I'm vocal, but I'm not as vocal as I used to be with gaming. True story, one of my TVs I actually broke. Confession, I won't go into the full details of that unless anyone wants to know about it off stream or off the show. I'll talk about it. But I did have a moment with that. So now I'm very calm about playing. Like, I get frustrated like anybody else, but I don't carry it with me because it's a game. Once you truly have it in your head and understand, like, hey, it's just a game, and if you want to lose, it's still a game, and you can't win every time, then you get a better understanding, a better knowledge of playing. And the next topic I have is, some people will get online and they just aren't sociable. So one of my other cons kind of ties into that, because it's a thing that you do see with a lot of people who play online, which is there are some people who just get online just to play a game, beat the game, do whatever they're going to do, and get off. Going back to the conversation earlier about the guy with gears. It wasn't that he wasn't a sociable person. He just may not have had the equipment to converse with me, or he may have just been like, hey, I just want to beat this character and that's it. And I mean, I understood that, so I didn't take it personal. I didn't get upset about it. But it was also like, it would have been nice to kind of talk to him, since he was somebody I knew from one of our video game crews, and to kind of spin it into an even better example. Let's say, hypothetically, we were playing Grand Theft Auto. Let's say 10 people got into a lobby on Grand Theft Auto. Nobody has a microphone, but you all are in the same clan, or you all might want to do things together. There's no way of interacting or preparing anything, because you're just gonna be doing it on the fly, and it causes it to become more unorganized and less enjoyable. So that's something you have to look at with doing different games online as well. Next topic, and this topic goes across any game on any system, and this is even with PC gaming as well. Not as much with PC gaming, but it's a similar trait, which is the talent skill level may or may not be even. Meaning that you can get into a lobby. Easy example, you can get into a let's say Gears of War Ultimate. When it first came out, a lot of people got online, they grinded. And grinding basically is the term of they got online and they played and played and played, and didn't play for like a few hours. They played it for days, back to back, and just leveled up their character to get a high level. So they may get into a lobby with somebody who has like a level 3 or level 4. So it's an unbalanced skill level, but it's also like the person who's a level 3 or 4, it can go one of two ways, because the ones who are seasoned that have played for a while might play that level 3 or 4 and feel uncomfortable. They may feel like, okay, this is gonna be an easy game, we should be able to dominate them. Or they may say they might have made a new profile and I don't know what to expect. And then on the other side, you can be a new person coming in and you're playing against someone with a higher level, and you're like, okay, this is the most uneven and unlevel matchup possible. Gotta love it. Just gonna wait till this happens. Anyway, white noise. Sorry, I'm not gonna let the show must go on. So, there are gonna be points where the game just doesn't level out or balance out the same way, and that's gonna happen. I mean, that's a given with any. That's even in real life. You can play basketball against people. Somebody get 5 on the court. They play against another 5. The 5 that's good looks at the other team like, yeah, we're gonna dominate y'all. But then the team who has the lesser of the 5 may be able to beat that other team. So it's almost like you just have to play it out and see what happens. And that kind of, the talent skill level. So the talent skill level and may not be sociable kind of go hand in hand. Here's why. Let's say you have people on the same team who all have high skill levels, but nobody talks to each other. It makes for a very frustrating game in most cases. Now, I will admit before I continue that I am speaking on your multiplayer based games, because there are some single games such as Smash Brothers on the Wii U where there is no real form of communication with someone, because it's not like you can put on a headset and say, hey, I'm gonna talk to you and we're gonna compete. You really don't have that interaction involving the Wii, because it's meant for another purpose, which I'm going to talk about as I go through my cons. So you have to think about that as well. But you kind of understand what I mean when I say how the talent, the skill level can kind of be imbalanced, and it can cause for either a good game or it can just become a wash, or it could be either way. I know in Halo at one time, either Halo 3 or Halo 4 was a very streak-based game, which means a team can go on a good run and then all of a sudden just have a flop and just have an awful game. It happens. But it's a matter of how do you get out of that slump or out of that low point to kind of bounce back to prove that you're meant to belong in the conversation or in the category of playing against whoever it is you're playing against. So it's just something you have to think about. My next topic is, I'm indifferent about this, and I'll tell you why. Because some people use them and they can be good, and then some people just exploit them. And it was a story about this recently that still amazes me that it actually happened, which is your cheats and your glitches. So I'm going to go into this literally in two separate directions, but still come back to the main point of why this is a bad thing. Glitches are ways of exploiting a game and making it uncomfortable for others to play and almost defeats the whole purpose of playing. Like a typical shooter, like a typical first person shooter game, the purpose of you buying the game is to run around running gun. Not, okay, I'm going to sit in this one corner and play like I'm in Laser Quest and not move. And people do it. All right, sorry about that. Just want to take a brief break. So you have your cheats and your glitches, those who like to cheat games and get over and get by and not knowing that they're not doing anything they're not gaining anything from what they're doing. So you can use certain cheats to help you excel in a game, but there's a difference between using a cheat to excel in a game just to be a little better versus you cheating the game to the point where it's just not even making the game enjoyable. There's another level of this, and it's actually two levels of it. There's what they call modding, and there's what you call hacking. You have some people who their goal in a game is literally to hack at all costs and find every little niche and flaw in the game that nobody would even think of using. The story that I was going to get into would reference this is in Halo 5. There was a group who literally was famous for just cheating. They were in a live tournament. They found this area that they could go into and hide and not be seen. But by doing that, it ended up getting them to forfeit the match. And they were disqualified from the tournament because it was a space that all of them just found and they just stood there, and it was like, why would you even do that? But obviously they knew what they were doing, and they had a plan all along. So whenever I use the term glitches, I always refer to head glitches in Call of Duty, because there's certain areas you can stand in or sit in or be close to, and it causes you to get this advantage or get this space where a person can see you, but you can't see them. But all they need is just enough space to be able to peek out and say, okay, I see you, I'm gonna shoot you, and I got you. End of discussion. So you have to kind of think about that whenever you're gaming online. And the final thing that I want to talk about, and this will probably cap off my podcast, and I've talked long enough, and I guess this is fun for me because now, I guess if I didn't say it, says thanks, because this will help me to get a better format or to get a better flow in place with doing these in the future. Because when I do the one for PC gaming, he doesn't know it yet, but I'm telling him now when he hears it. I'm going to need a special guest to kind of give a little bit more insight to this one, so I'm not just talking off the whim and thinking I know what I'm talking about with PC gaming, and I've played League of Legends for like 10 seconds and Oregon Trail. Don't judge. Anyway, the final piece that hurts in the console community for online gaming is what you call a lack of direct interaction. So if you go back, now I'm going to go back a little ways on this one. If you go back 20 years ago, probably longer, around that time when the Genesis was out, Super Nintendo, even Dreamcast, when gaming was done back then, the person you were playing against sat right beside you. So, perfect example, you play NFL Madden or Madden NFL, you could see your play, and then some people try to see that you look at your play that you was calling, and then you try to look at the other person's controller to see what they called for whatever. Sometimes you can figure it out. As Madden evolved, the game got smarter, and they said, okay, if you put up all these options, unless the person can see directly and know what you're picking, you're not going to be able to figure out a person's play. So that has been all affected because no one plays in the same room or in the same area. I may play here and my opponent might be in California, Or my two friends who I know, they're from up north. One's in Pittsburgh and the other one is in Jersey. So they, we always would get online, and it wasn't, thankfully we had headsets, so that's how we communicated, but the direct interaction of when you play with, like, anybody who knows when you play Madden and you stand in the tall sitting beside somebody, it's trash talking galore. So that kind of goes away when you're doing it online, but you also have to push it as an advantage in a sense, because online gaming gives you the opportunity to play with people that you would never play with ever a day in your life. And that's where my networking and my new playground and my meeting new people kind of ties into that, because there are some people who, and this is kind of going to be my closing, but my cap of this podcast, and I'll put my water down because I'm back and forth, but we gamers vary in different brands and breeds and colonies and styles and formats and whatever you want to call it. The typical gamer is not in your parents' basement eating pizza and drinking sodas all day. There are some gamers who literally have social lives outside of gaming. Guilty as charged, I'm one of them. I don't game as much as others do because most of the time I'm pulling my time for my job, and that's just me. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I enjoy gaming. That being said, meeting the people that I've met and the people that I plan to meet in gaming, I don't regret any of it, because without them, there is no community. Without me, there is no knowledge to get others to understand that there is a community. The perfect example, or the most direct way that I can look at it, is even here in Richmond. And I'll probably bring them up again because I love it and I enjoy what they do. The Forge, which is one of our gaming venues here, does what they call a weekly Smash tournament. So they have a Smash Brothers 4 tournament. You see everybody walking around with controllers around their neck and all the nerdiest apparel known to man. But it's the most enjoyable environment you'll be in because everybody's there for the same purpose. Because they like gaming and they also want to beat the other people in Smash to prove that they're the best gamer in Smash. So they go in, they play, and they just battle it out. And it's always, I went one time to enjoy, just to see what it was about. I haven't been back since. Just every time it's my schedule of working on a Saturday, off on Sunday. And when I get out of church on Sunday, usually I want to just relax. So I try to make it, haven't been able to make it. And that's just the story that I'm sticking to. So I'm saying all of this to kind of make it out there to say there are a few things that are great about gaming. And there are a lot of things that may or may not be enjoyable about gaming to some. But at the end of the day, you have to find what works for you. And regardless of whether we want to admit it or not, online gaming is where it is right now. You get online, you meet people, you play what they play, they like what you like, y'all talk about it, you interact, you meet new people, and it expands your network in the gaming community on a computer or on a PC or on console. But it also expands you to meet other people to say, hey, if we want to sit and talk about gaming outside of the Xbox, then we can do that. And a lot of people I've talked to, there's some people I've done more talking about gaming with than I've actually picked up a controller and game with. So that's what I want to leave you all with. I hope you all enjoyed listening as much as I've enjoyed talking about this. I'm not tired. I'm just been literally not even being funny. Cabin fever has been kicking my butt today, so I'm trying to just be calm and relaxed because it's been a process. But nonetheless, you got to do what you got to do, right? So until next time, I hope you all enjoyed, and this is BT signing out. By the way, be sure to, if you're not already following me on Spreaker, be sure to check me out. I go by Silent Assassin B on Spreaker, but I do have my channel. I do have my podcast posted on YouTube under BTaylor21, as well as on Facebook at Brights82 and on Twitter at Brights82. So until next time, this is BT signing out. Peace.